Second. All in favor? Aye. We're open.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Francola.
Here.
Mr. Gupta.
Here.
Mr. Mascatola.
Here.
Mr. Riley. Here. Mr. Rogers. Here. Mr. Russo.
Here.
Mr. Sauter.
Here.
Mr. Sposato.
Here.
Dr. Sal.
Here. Okay, before we have a hearing citizens on our resolution items tonight, I'd like to have a report from our negotiations committee. Chairman, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's very important for all of you to know that we work very hard and many long hours. And we came to an agreement which is in the best interest of our community, our staff, the taxpayers of this district, and most importantly, the children of this district. We came to an agreement which did not compromise our pledge to the taxpayers, which was to understand their plight in these very difficult economic times. Nor did we compromise our pledge to our employees to be fair-handed, and to be fair-handed with them, knowing that they too suffer the same plight that every taxpayer across this land suffers. Nor did we compromise our duty, and I wish to underscore that word duty, to the children of this district in ensuring that their education is provided by the best educators we can attract to this district, and to do our best to make sure that they will never suffer the plight of not being able to obtain a thorough and efficient education because of tough decisions we either make or fail to make in our time. Now, unlike many other districts across this state, this teachers union got it from the beginning, and they gave. And unlike other boards of education in this state, we were determined to hold the line, and we held the line. We worked together in the best interest of the people, the taxpayers, and the children of this district. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to first of all commend your committee. I mean, work just the two of you is a very difficult task. I know I've served on negotiations for a number of years. And after taking a look at this, I understand your sentiments and I agree with them. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Cook, who was also a member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a few comments from the financial perspective of the tentative agreement. And the two areas that really impact this will be health care and the salary increases. On the health care side, we've got some concessions. The focus of our negotiations, recognizing that the traditional plan is very expensive, and in my mind it's a dinosaur that we have to move out over a period of time. So with that in mind, we've got some concessions from the union. One, that all new hires until they reach tenure will be in a direct access plan. Two, those who are in the traditional plan currently will receive a one-time payment as an incentive to move from traditional to direct access, and once they do that, they cannot go back into traditional. And three, to make the traditional a little less attractive, we got increases in the deductible, in the catastrophic out-of-pocket maximum, and also where the amount that the plan recovers, instead of paying 100% for facilities that are not in the direct plan, we will pay 90% of the HIA average cost. So that is a substantial savings. So overall, concessions on the benefit side, the healthcare side, probably worth about 1%, high level, 1% of payroll. On the salary side, longevity was frozen, as well as some of the other payouts for sick pay and things of that nature. Longevity was frozen. The percentage increase, 3.9%, 4%, 4.1%, include the steps. For those who are not familiar, the steps are the natural progression of teachers year over year as they go through the steps till they get to the maximum steps. The value of the steps is probably about half of that increase. And then the top step, you're getting about a 2% increase each year. The other thing about the steps, you have to keep in mind that as teachers retire, they can walk at the top steps and hire a lower step, so that the full increase, that 2% increase for the steps, is not realized, will not be realized because of teachers retiring. In fact, if you get a normal year of 10 retirees, it about offsets the steps. Putting the steps aside, about a 2% increase and 1% feedback on benefits. So from a total compensation point of view, I believe it's worth about 1%. And I think that this is we're trying to be fair, as Steve said, to the teachers, fair to the taxpayers, if we came to a compromise in this fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Before we have a hearing, citizen, Mr. DeVito, anything you want to add, or do you want to wait until you're asked a specific question?
I'm looking for everybody.
Okay, this portion of the meeting, I'd like to open up the hearing of citizens on our resolutions only.
Donna Ferraro, 34 Roosevelt Street. I'm here as a taxpayer. This is my questions. When, at any time during negotiations, did an NJEA representative or Blue Cross Horizon representative come and speak to the board members who were on the negotiation team?
The negotiation team was comprised of 2 board members. Initially, there were 4 board members, 2 of whom, one did not run for re-election and the other one was not elected. So we started with 4. We then had 2 board members, myself, our BA, and we had our superintendent for technical assistance. We did have our healthcare representatives actually from both sides, both the healthcare representative for the board and the healthcare representative for the NJEA, the association, on more than one occasion.
So it was an NJEA representative that I'm talking about from UNICEF?
The association team, their lead negotiator was Zephaniah Gadsden, who was a UNICEF rep, who represents the association. He was their lead guy, I was the board's lead guy.
Okay, so when you talk about direct access, are you talking about school employees health benefit program or direct access like the Nutley town workers have?
No, we're talking about the health plan that is offered to the Board of Education employees.
Just school employees?
Under our health care plan, correct.
Okay.
That's the only one we dealt with. We dealt with the association or our employees, and we provide a health benefit package. That's what we dealt with.
Okay, because there is, and I'm here, I'm also an educator, so I'm here just to give you the facts, because I did try to speak to a few people on the board, and you're either in negotiations, you can't talk, so I don't know when the public's allowed to talk, so publicly I'd like to just at least give some facts. There may be some misconceptions out there about New Jersey Direct. I also had a traditional plan, and when we went into negotiations 2.5 years ago, April 1st, 2007, it was started by Jane Powell, the past president of New Jersey Education Association. And I just wanted to give some facts so nobody is under the misconception of what exactly New Jersey Direct 10 or 15 is, that it is a school employees only. So that's what I just want to make sure is that that's what you gentlemen and negotiation teams went for.
That's correct.
All right. First of all, New Jersey Director 1015 has its advantages, such as anyone going to Lab 4. If you go to Lab 4, there's one right on Clifton Avenue.
Could I just interrupt you one moment? The state health benefits plan, there's also a state health benefits plan that's available to teaching Board of Education employees. We do not have a state health benefit plan. I think what you're referring to on both the 10 and the 15 are the direct access plans now available to people in the state health benefit plan. Nutley had been in that plan, and on the last round of negotiations, we came out of that plan.
No, that's not the plan. This plan just started April 1st, 2007.
Under the state health benefit plan, that's what I
New
mean.
Jersey Direct 10, school employees only.
That's correct.
No, it wasn't, because it was just a plan that was just brought.
But understand what I'm saying. Schools can have that state health benefit plan that you're referring to. You don't have to have it. We don't have that particular
No,
one.
I know that. That's why I'm bringing you the facts. Can I finish what
Yes.
I want
All right,
to say?
I
And
think
then I'll
you
get
just-
to my point that I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to undermine anyone in the board.
I just
or
thought
the
you-
teachers at all. Direct 10 or Direct 15 has its advantages, such as going to any LabCorp facility, and there's one right on Clifton Avenue, and if you make an appointment, they'll take you within 15 minutes of your appointment schedule time at zero cost. If your doctor uses LabCorp, they cannot charge you for the lab work. And if you go to facilities such as Progressive Imaging, right in Belleville, or any other of the facilities that are participating, mammograms, x-rays, and ultrasounds are no charge, not even the $10 copay. The only time you need a referral is only for CAT scans, and an emergency room visit is $25. My eye exam, which I've been going to my optometrist since I'm a teenager, he's ready to retire, he was in the plan. It cost me $10. In traditional plan, I did not have my eye exam covered. I did not have to change any of my doctors. I still have the choice, and I can go where I want. My doctors who are now participating, I pay $10 copay. My doctors who are not participating, it goes right back to traditional plan. That's where I think everybody's under the misconception of what we can have as teachers and school employees. So it goes right back to 80/20, and any $10 copay that gets paid, it goes towards my $100 deductible. That's all I have is a $100 deductible. For my coordination of benefits, my husband is still my secondary. He is still under a traditional plan. He goes right in. I cover his other 20%. And if I have to use my traditional plan because my doctor is not participating, I want the back of his. Also, after mine goes through the 80/20, my 20% goes over to that. The point that I'm trying to make is that even at this time, if the board changes the benefit plan, it's still equal to or better than. And those are big terms that we use in negotiations. The current situation, such as looking for monies for the permanent subs benefits, positions that were dismissed, the lunch 8 hours, getting cut 3 hours a week, and most importantly, the clubs for the children. This wouldn't even be a discussion right now, maybe and possibly, that we checked into this particular situation, and that all school employees are covered under this plan. So my question is to the board is, could you please have Mr. DeVita check into this, check the interest savings, check the benefits, and when we were in negotiations 3 years ago, because our contract is going to be due up, our unions are separate. We had 142 teachers. At just 142 teachers going to New Jersey Direct School Employees Benefit Program saved our district $400,000. And that's only 142 teachers. So I can't imagine what this might do for 500 employees. And that's all I want to know is if you could just investigate this. I see no reason, and I feel like I had to come publicly because I tried going to other avenues. And I'm here, I'm telling you teachers, it's a good plan. So don't fear it.
I'd like to respond just briefly.
Yes.
During the negotiations, our goal was not to deny good coverage to the teachers. It was to do it in the most cost-effective manner as possible. But one of the issues is that there's a large percentage of our current staff who are in the traditional plan, and that it would not be acceptable to the union to eliminate traditional plan at this point in time.
But this goes right into traditional
So
plan.
that's why some of the changes that we had are to steer the membership out of traditional and into the direct access, have new employees in direct access from the get-go, see how good it is. And many of the negotiators on the union side, they testified to the benefits of the direct access plan. So there's some agreement there. This question of the current population with such a large percentage traditional, how do we move them across without in an acceptable fashion?
Well, we did it for the whole district went into it. What I'm just trying to explain to you is that if you go right into a traditional plan, if your doctor does not participate, and it's not participating. So that's all. I just wanted to bring the information to everyone here tonight in hopes that maybe you can check into this and see if it's a good plan or not. I'm very satisfied with it, and I was a traditional plan person, and matter of fact, I have come with benefits from it that I don't have. I'm not missing anything, except for if I go to the emergency room, I have to pay $25. That's really the only difference. So that's all. I thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mr. President. Alan Thomas, McKinley Street here in Nutley. Mr. President, last week I asked that you put out the memorandum of agreement to the public, and it has been posted on the website, and it doesn't appear to be available here tonight. And I'm wondering why that is so.
It will be available after the vote. It would be inappropriate to have that memorandum of agreement distributed prior to the vote. It's a confidential document by virtue of our ground rules, by virtue of collective bargaining, and by virtue of the obligation to negotiate in good faith. The 500 plus teachers who have seen it are voting members of the association. They had to see it in order to vote on it. We have 9 members who will vote on it because of the invocation of the doctrine of necessity. Each of these 9 members has been provided with a copy of it and have been given an explanation of what transpired in a private executive session, which is appropriate because it's negotiation. It would be and subject this board, and it was my counsel to this board, to instruct them not to put it on the website, not to distribute it until the vote was taken, because if in fact it were done that way, it is my opinion that it would subject this board to an unfair labor charge. So that's why it's not available.
May I ask what your legal authority is for that opinion?
The legal authority is collective bargaining, negotiating. The legal authority is the ground rules that we agreed to from day one of negotiating. And the legal authority is you have an obligation when you negotiate collective bargaining agreements to negotiate in good faith. And it would not be in good faith.
I'm sorry. Wait for your
I'm done.
Do you have any case law that supports that?
I have a PERC law behind us. I have the fact that I have been in consultation with the School Boards Association and the NJEA, and we're on the same page, and I stand on that recommendation. And if, in fact, you feel that I'm wrong, you're free to challenge it. But my advice to the board is sound. That is a confidential document, a memorandum of agreement negotiated between 2 negotiating teams. The board team has an obligation to bring it back to the board. These are the 9 members who vote on it. They're your elected officials, and they vote on it. And until they vote on it, it should not be made available to the public.
Mr. President, Mr. Blanco mentioned ground rules. Are those ground rules a public document?
No. This is collective bargaining negotiation. Do you think that the public can participate in collective bargaining when we go to negotiate? We can't even have the whole board. We only have to have a team.
Well, Mr. President, this is a public body, and it's subject to the Open Records Act and the Open Meetings Act, which, shall we say, changes the rule and the way I would do things in a private business. But I find it inconceivable that the Board of Education would vote on this agreement without the public being able to see it. As I said last week, we're not approving the electric bill. This is where 80 to 90% of the school district's money is spent every single year. And for the board to keep this under wraps, regardless of what the legal advice is, okay, I find it unconscionable. Not to mention, I think it's just bad politics and bad policy. Okay, I just don't understand it. Yet, you reveal the terms of it. If we were jotting down notes, I just don't understand it. I mean, can someone explain to me how you can sit here and tell us what the terms are, but not show us the actual terms?
to uphold our oath.
Well, I didn't hear Mr. Marco say anything about the law. I heard him say something about rules of negotiating and traditional rules of collective bargaining.
Alan, I call your attention, you indicated that under Oprah, the collective bargaining information would be available. I call your attention to NJSA.
No, Mr. Marco, that's not what I said. I
Well-
said, once the negotiations were over, and apparently they were over on June 3rd, okay, the question arises whether that memorandum of agreement is a public document.
It will be after.
Certainly after it was voted upon by the EAN, okay, and ratified by them, it became a public document.
Absolutely untrue.
I disagree.
Then contest it, sir.
I wish I had the money to do it, because I think it's unconscionable. You have not pointed out any law, any ruling by a court that says once a memorandum of agreement is approved and ratified by the bargaining unit, the board cannot make the memorandum of agreement public. You haven't, Mr. Marco, and that's because of business.
I respectfully disagree, sir.
Well, when you get it, if you can send it to me, I gave you my card last week.
If the board votes on the matter this evening, a copy of that memorandum of agreement will be made available.
Too late, too little, too late. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Tom Evans, 18 Edgewood Avenue, in Nutley, also the Revenue and Finance Commissioner for the Township of Nutley. A couple questions. Most of my responsibility in my role is to look at things that actually around affordability. And today, we're in an environment where I question, and I raise the question with my fellow commissioners all the time, about the importance of achieving affordability for our residents. So I understand, Jim, some of your comments regarding the negotiations. And so one of the asks I have is, do you have a pro forma that looks at how the increase in salary costs will affect your budget over the future few years? And what the implication is against the budget we just struck? Because this budget included, I think, $1.3 million of the budget increase was related to salary increases. Do you have that?
With respect to the current fiscal year, it's within this budget. There was a salary increase, which was budgeted, and the benefits, healthcare benefits, were less than what we had budgeted because of the give back salary. For future years, we have not performed the next 2 years of the contract in that fashion.
Okay. I ask because Nutley in this next budget cycle will reach a new milestone. The overall tax levy for the township of Nutley will exceed $100 million. So when you look at the municipality, the county, the school board all together, I think that's a sizable number. I think about that in terms of the fact that 18% of our residents are senior citizens, and 84% of the tax levy is paid for by residential taxpayers. When I think about the residential taxpayers, we are facing and living through an unprecedented recessionary environment that became very dangerously close to a world depression. Very dangerously close when we saw banks such as Bank of America and Citigroup, almost fold. Major financial institutions have folded. Many banks have closed across the country already, and the prospect of that will continue. So a recent study that I think is also on the paper said it will take 8 years for the job market to return to normal. Many citizens have incurred salary cuts, 401k losses in value to their property. So I understand, Mr. Rogers, your campaign speech when you read it, but it's important that would also get down to some very real facts. And one very simple is commit is being able to honestly answer the question of affordability. For the municipal employees, we worked together many nights, and actually we were able to achieve a concession with many of the municipal employees where they didn't take an increase this year because we asked them to understand the plight of the residents. So my concern is this, is that we will be facing an increase in the cost of what we have to pay for services, and we all face that. We've been notified already that our healthcare costs for next year will go up 18%. Our pension increase will go up 12.5%. For regular employees, and 19.5% for police and fire. These are significant numbers just at the municipal level. I don't know if you've been notified of those increases yet, but we have. So I'm looking at this in terms of while you negotiate this, the concern that I have is that we, as your responsibility as a board, our responsibility as commissioners, is to always look at the nature of affordability. Because I believe we're in an environment where we are significantly stressing the taxpayers of our town. The other fact that I will give you is that in the recent months, 40 new homes have gone up for sale now. And so we are facing a situation where good people are having a very hard time paying, and so while there's a need to invest, and I understand the nature of the negotiations to a degree, I wasn't part of it, and I understand all the details, I heard it tonight for the first time. The question is, what's the impact on the budget for the coming year? What are you seeing as an increase in terms of the cost of the taxpayers as a result of the decision that we intend to make tonight?
Well, salary-wise, between the teachers and secretaries, it's going to be an increase of just under $1 million. We did receive some kickbacks with the health benefits. That should see by a savings of around $183,000. That's estimated. But those are basically the two big items that were negotiated. Some of the things that we don't know yet, as far as if we get any new teachers, they will be going to the traditional plan, they'll be going to the direct access plan. We don't know if certain teachers are going to take advantage of moving from the traditional plan to the direct access plan. If they do that, then we see savings there, but it's kind of hard to put that on that until we actually see some numbers from people who are over.
Mr. President? Yes. I'd like to respond in a slightly different fashion. In that, yes, I agree there's the affordability from the town's perspective, and then there's the consequences of not reaching an agreement with the union, and the next steps is what we got, and it would be arbitration. And there are some recent arbitrators have ruled recently, and one, the percentage increase we're paying the lowest, so and the arbitrators have even more than what we settled. So one of the real possibilities would have been that if we didn't go with arbitration, we would wind up in a worse position than we are now, and higher increases, and not necessarily having all the givebacks of the benefit. So you got to balance those two things. And we did know that what we did agree to is within the boundaries of the current budget for this year. But we didn't, and as we did not perform in the next 2 years. But that was some consideration also. How hard can we push, and where do we think we could push to versus going to arbitration, and where would we wind up in arbitration? We feel that if we went to arbitration, we wind up with a bigger increase. We wind up with 4.4 that instead of 3.9. So we could wind up 0.5% higher. So that's the other consideration.
I understand, and again, I'm not questioning your negotiation. I'm not part of it. And I don't think, if we have the opportunity to sit down so I can understand it, I would love to do that. Ultimately, I I raised the spectrum of affordability. The taxes on average for a house over in Nutley in the last 5 years are up almost $1,000. And contrary to, to popular belief, there is an upper limit as to how much people can afford to pay. So I address you as a board to ask you to keep that in mind because it is so critical given the environment that we're in. And it's going to take a lot longer than many expected before it turns into better.
Certainly, the other thing is part of the equation is efficiencies. There's the cost of weighing and how many candidates.
So it's not, you get down to you have to pay your teachers so much. Teachers in Nutley do a great job. I understand the commitment and the dedication, and it's not a question of that. I'm not raising that question in that context. But there's only so much money. The pie is only so big. So how does it, what's the implication associated with the contract agreement tonight and for the township? And recognize that there's few pennies to spend. The other is that I asked several of you about the purchase of the lot in terms of that and where that stands, and I have yet to hear back on that particular item. Okay. I know it's not about the resolution tonight, but I just really had a question.
On that particular matter you referenced, I did send a letter to the township attorney. I did have a conversation with the township attorney relative to that within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. So I understand there's an affordability issue there as well, and I know working together we can solve that.
Yeah, but if you were to check with Mr. Harper, he'll confirm that we not only had a conversation, but I corresponded, put in writing that under the current circumstances, we could not go forward with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. I have an option as to possibly reconsider that. Okay.
Mr. President, at this time, I understand, but I'm asking you a question. I want an answer when I ask you. I'm asking you. All right? You understand that? I'm asking you a question. The question is, Mr. Evans asked the question. Do I ask the answer for his question when my turn is up?
Which part of
He has
the
one
question?
other thing. He asked a question about the remaining 2 years on the contract, the budget. And I didn't hear an answer. I was hoping I could get that answer. Did someone, Jim, Frank, someone on the committee, or BA, tell me the answers to the projected 2 years? Can I ask that now first?
I think that should come up for discussion before you vote on it. I think if you want to make an informed vote, I think you can ask that question at that point when we call the resolution. It'll be called and there'll be board discussion. I think that would be the appropriate time to ask that question. Mr. Zah.
Okay. One other thing I'd like to point out before we have someone else. It's very difficult to compare the township to the school board. We haven't got the latitude to perhaps say that all regular classroom teachers are going to take a zero and only the supervisors are going to get a raise. We haven't got the latitude to have some things outside our cap and some things within our cap. I understand affordability. I've lived in this town all my life, and I understand it. But I also understand this, having served on this board. It's going to be very irresponsible for us to ever put together a budget that falls below the cap in order to save taxpayers money. And that's been proven in the past. That's why I was hoping Dr. Scarpelli would show up, because I remember when he and I served on this board together, we went through a couple of budgets where we actually, we used to make the sign back to each other because we were going to hold the line and we were going to find how we could still put together a good budget moving forward that isn't going to compromise what we give our kids in the classroom. We're going to help the taxpayers out. We came up with a zero budget one year. We came up with a 0.2 budget one year. And what wasn't clarified to us at the time was that by doing so, all we did was hurt ourselves down the road with the cap. So I think I can safely say it will be our intention to use every bit of that cap every year. And the only way we could go above that cap would be to put a second question on the ballot and I think it would have to pass by 3/4 or 60% of the voters. So we understand affordability, and we understand that education costs money, and we understand that in order to get to that cap, we haven't had to do this yet, but we may be forced with less staff members, less program. We felt a little pinch of it this year, with things being as they were, trying to get under the cap. And, you know, it all comes back to, you know, I like to say everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. Everybody wants to aspire to be a good school district. Everybody wants to have 24 kids in the classroom. If we're going to start cutting staffing, the only place we have discretion to cut funding is to have 30, 35 kids in the classroom, less programs, cut back on all the programs we added, and that's the only place we can cut. So we owe it to be affordable, but we also owe it to deliver the best system of education we can in this township. I teach in a district where I have 47 kids in the classroom. My average class size is 42. I don't ever want to see that happen here. It may come to that one day. If they don't decide to fund education in this state in another fashion, or give us the opportunity to do some other things outside of the cap or some other ways to raise revenue that we're not allowed to do now, I foresee down the road we're going to have a big problem. But as far as affordability, we can only work within that cap. And I'm confident after reporting from the team and from Mr. DeVita, we're not going to get a better deal if we go to arbitration. And we were at an end. I wasn't part of the negotiation committee, but we were at the end when we were at these numbers. So I don't believe they were going to improve anymore if negotiations pursued. And I certainly wouldn't be I wouldn't subject the district to an arbitrator. Because the numbers would only get worse. Anyone else?
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the question that Mr. Susanto was going to ask, which is exactly what will be the impact of contract costs over the next couple of years. I believe I heard Mr. Cook just said that we're going to basically save $100,000, maybe $200,000 from the current year's budget on this contract. If that's what I would like to know that. But going forward, can someone tell me whether the contract cost will be lower than the 4% cap over the next 2 years? In other words, the rest of the life of the contract?
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Cook and Mr. DeVito, you can clarify this if I do not have it right. With the 1% saving on the givebacks, technically we're looking at a 394 to 41. But when you factor in the savings on the givebacks on the health insurance, it's actually a 293 and a 31. So when we can play numbers to make people feel good all we want with the threes and the fours, but actuality, saving $250,000 a year each year moving forward, and maybe more than that, if we can't predict based on enrollment and new hires, we may stand to increase that 1% even more. So I hope that answers your question.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Well, I think
Go ahead.
there's
Jim, could you speak to the microphone? Because even from here, I can't hear you.
I think that, except in response to Mr. Evans, we did not pro forma the next 2 years. We'd start working, in fact, we have a finance committee meeting next week to start working on the budget for the following year. What Sal was saying is that we do have some savings on the medical, on the givebacks on the medical. And certainly that is the salary will be less than 4%. Now there are a couple other components of this thing which I don't know, I can't predict at this point in time. Maybe that's the numbers on it. But one is how many people will retire next year, and the population, the size of our teachers' population, we would expect at least 10 a year. That goes a long way to cover the medical, which exceeds 4%. So if we get enough retirees with medical, we should, that I would think would bring us in, it's going to be difficult, but would bring us in.
Mr. President.
As far as this negotiating, these costs associated with this negotiation, now there are other costs that that are outside negotiations that we might have to worry about, energy costs, in other areas.
Mr. President, is there anything in the memorandum of agreement that that springs into action if the total compensation cost, once we find out what insurance premiums are going to be and how many retirees are, is there anything in there that will keep the total compensation cost to 4% or lower?
I would defer to Mr. DeVito on that question. Repeat the question.
So we have a 4% budget cap, and I understand what we've heard is that we actually will be under budget for the current year. My concern is in the future years. I'm wondering if there is anything in the contract that springs up should we determine when we do the budget for next year that compensation costs between the salary, the contractual salary agreement and the insurance premium and the other costs for compensation will be more than 4%. If we can do something to bring it under 4%. Other than laying off teachers and things like that, talking about bringing the package. Is there anything in the contract that will allow you to do that?
I think I can answer that. There's no, you're talking about some mechanism in the contract that will spring into effect if certain conditions were met. The answer is no. It's a negotiated 3-year agreement. We will not renegotiate the salary package until the life of this contract is extinguished. So the answer would be no.
Let me answer your question. If we ever got to that point, we would have the only alternative would be reduction in force. We're not allowed to operate beyond the cap.
I understand that, Mr. President. That's why I'm asking, is there something in the contract that would spring into action to prevent the reduction in force? And the answer is no. So that's why I'm asking that question. I know the last year during the budget discussions, Mr. President, there was discussion of reforming the budget process so that a lot more information is available not only to the public but to the board members long before the time deadline set by the state calendar. And I'm wondering if we're doing that in such a way that we can have as much notice as possible to find out what the impact of next year will be.
As far as budget information, I'll defer to Mr. Cook, he's the chairman of that. He's already hit the ground running.
And as I said before, we've already had a couple of meetings, not so much, all focused on the current fiscal year, but next week we have a meeting scheduled to start focusing in on next fiscal year, the 10-11, fiscal year 10-11. So we're starting the process in October this time, with the board involved.
Any preliminary numbers of how much? What was it last year, Mr. President? $800,000 Mr. Sarah had to cut.
As I said, we have the first meeting, and we're having that meeting next week, so we don't have numbers this week.
When do you anticipate having those numbers?
I'm not going to answer that question now.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. I appreciate getting a straightforward answer. Mr. President, I too want to congratulate the members of the negotiating committee because I know that having been involved in labor negotiations, it's not always fun, and it does take a lot of time and effort. So I do want to thank you for your service on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to hear before we move the resolution?
Joseph Hyde for Garden Place. First of all, I'd like to thank the teachers for their service to the district in Nutley. And my own personal opinion is any questions asked at these types of meetings is not a reflection on the quality of teachers. I think it's a question more of the economic times. And I appreciate the board's position and difficulty. I can't imagine the stress you've got under for this. I thank you. That said, my frustration is, I come to these meetings and I got to scribble like 2 pads of notes. And my question is, why can't we have a slideshow to put up what the numbers are? Well, is there a reason we can't do that? You know, we talked about last time with the budget. Remember we went over the budget last time? We spent an hour and 45 minutes asking about individual line items. And most of the problem was people were saying, well, this was reclassed from line 1 to line 6. 7 and back and forth. And I don't think the answers were inappropriate, and I don't think the details weren't there. But it's pretty darn difficult as a taxpayer to sit down here and be able to just summarize the situation. It's a very simple question. I'm going to go home to my wife who's home with 2 children in Nutley school system who hopefully are in bed by now. And she's going to say, what's the increase in the percentage and what do you think is going to happen to the bottom line? I got a page and a half of notes and I said, honey, I'm not sure. And I don't know that that's really what you're trying to project. I think you're trying to do things in good faith. But why can't we have a slideshow? Is there something in the memorandum of understanding that's inappropriate there, sir?
The problem is that until it is ratified or affirmed by this body, it is not a public document. I mean, in terms of a budget presentation, your point is well taken, and that you would have to speak to the...
No, my point is if you just gave numbers, Jim and Mr. Davidi, you gave numbers too. So I'm assuming you want to convey information to us.
Well, to be frank about it, the information that is being spoken to the audience is that part is against my advice. I recommend it not to put the memorandum out and not even speak to it until you vote on it. However, in the interest of trying to have some disclosure and trying to make the meeting somewhat meaningful, we talked about having the committee members try to offer some explanation that might answer some of the questions. This is not the appropriate topic to be put on a spreadsheet or a board.
As a taxpayer, I would agree with the board members who overruled your opinion. And board members, I think the people, I can speak for myself. I'm a CPA, I can write numbers down as pretty messy as everybody else. The question is, I just want to know what the numbers are. I just want to know what the impact is. And we get out to pro formas year 2 and 3. I don't need to know the dollar. We have a range, what assumptions they're using. I think that's fair. I don't think that's inappropriate. I'd like to support you, but I really don't know that I feel I've gotten the full picture. And I think that's disappointing, but I very much would like to stand behind you.
All that information will be available once we vote on it. However, when we have a motion on the floor and a second, we will have a discussion in which much more information than what we're disclosing to you right now is going to come out. So you'll have an opportunity.
Yes, but at that point in time, we're going to go through the same cycle we do every time, Phil. You're going to make a statement, something's going to go on various websites, it's going to be inaccurate, you're going to have to send something out there saying you disagree, and we go round and round. It's about information and transparency. So whether you do it at a different point in the meeting, the question is still the same. We make it clear information we're conveying to the public.
The one thing that you should understand is if the contract is ratified by the board this evening, we produce a contract document. A contract document is printed, put in pamphlet form, and that contract document will be available at that point.
I'm very clear on that fact, but you're going to discuss it now. How do the board members understand that? That's my question I had last time. If you're not giving information in writing, you're trying to display information from what I understand, at least make the public comfortable with your decision.
The board...
Sir, could I ask a non-attorney question? How do you do
Well,
that?
they're legal questions, so...
I don't think it's a legal question. I think it's a question of transparency of the situation.
Well, let me answer. One thing you said is inaccurate, and that is how are the board members going to know? The board members have had the information, the memorandum of agreement, the proposed new contract for the last 2 weeks. In addition to that, I addressed them with my committee in a private executive and advised them as to all of the negotiating strategy, what transpired, shared with them TAs, so they are fully informed, and they are the party that access the information.
I stand corrected on that piece. I apologize. But as a taxpayer, I still honestly don't feel comfortable. We've heard the facts, and I'm disappointed we have arranged for years 2 and 3.
Anyone else wish to be heard before we move to resolution? Closes the meeting. Mr. Rogers, would you move approval of the agreement with Education Association of Nutley Superintendent 1? Approval of agreement
agreement with Education Association of Nutley 2009 to 2012. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the memorandum of agreement with the Education Association of Nutley encompassing the terms and conditions of employment of teachers and secretaries period July 1, 2009 through June 30th, 2012. So moved.
Second.
Have a second, any discussion?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank the citizens who came forward and asked intelligent questions and who said them with class and with dignity and who respected every single member of this body. Very important that we do that, no matter what board we sit on, that we respect the dignity of the institution and know full well that every single member, whether it be on this Board of Education or Board of Commissioners, works very, very hard for this township. Something I will never forget. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
I got some questions. May I ask a question about the contract now? We can discuss it.
Yes, you can ask anything you want.
Okay, a couple questions were brought up, Mr. Nance, just to know, we said we're projecting retirements with this tough economic times. How many did we have this year? Going into this year?
2.
We had 2.
I'm sorry, I didn't say I projected the number of retirements. I said that a normal year would be about 10.
So we anticipate about 10.
I didn't say that. I said
Oh, you only anticipate. So this year we only had 2. So you think in the next 2 to 3 years, we have more people going to be retiring? Is that what we're anticipating?
That question being asked to the superintendent.
Whoever wants to
Probably
answer.
the appropriate person to ask it.
If the last 3 years are any yardstick for measurement, we've averaged 10, maybe even closer to 15. This year, I believe, as a reflection of what occurred in the economy, I think people were hesitant. Although, as you can see, we have a resolution for retirement for December, so that ups us to 3 for this year. I think it's a function of the age of the faculty. As the baby boomer generation gets closer to retirement, I think the numbers are going to increase statewide and also in Nutley. I think that we're going to probably, although there's no guarantee, I think just statistically people are closer to retirement age every year. And perhaps during the life of this contract, we'll realize, again, 10 a year, perhaps 15.
So your opinion, or your hope that in the tough economic times that we have, people will be retiring in the next 2 to 3 years?
Where I sit, we certainly appreciate and respect that we have a veteran faculty. Over the last few years that I've had this job, we've had a wonderful mix of experienced veterans and new hires. And I think that trend will continue. I'm not quite sure what the breakdown is statistically. I certainly can get that as far as number of years of service in the district for each employee. But I think just common sense would tell me that in the next couple of years we're going to see people retire. I can't give you any firm data on that. It's just an opinion.
I've known Jim now for about a year and a half. My opinion is, when it comes to numbers, he knows his stuff. I've known Steve for about a year and a half now. When it comes to being fair, I think it's hard to find a fairer guy. I've worked across the table with Mr. Promaka. When it comes to negotiating, he knows what he's doing. I really have to be for this contract based on those observations. Additionally, I have in front of me here a list of county averages. Our first year settlement falls below every county average. The closest one is 4.18. For the 10-11 year, our settlement falls below every county average. For the 11-12 year, our settlement falls below every average except Hunterdon County and is equal to Warren. What more shall I say?
Just on that, maybe can I ask a question while you brought that up?
Ask me a question?
Yeah, well, you
I could.
my question is, what's their average salary
I don't
based
know.
on the teachers?
I don't know. In Bergen County, I know it's quite high as compared to ours.
Well, it's quite high.
Quite high for the top person?
No, total salary for all teachers.
Oh, how can I know that?
Oh, we're already about, what, 24 million,
Oh,
25 million?
how can I possibly know those numbers? I couldn't.
Well, isn't the percentage based upon the total salary of teachers?
So,
So what's their salary? Their salary 10 million?
well,
15
percentage,
million?
percentage is a percentage.
I just, when you make a statement like that, that doesn't really excuse me.
Do you know what
It's a
those
lot,
numbers
I
are?
think.
Do you know, did you do the research?
Excuse me, Phil?
Did you do the research? Do you know the
No,
numbers?
just a statement was made. I want to talk about percentages. I don't want to talk about money.
Percentage means out of 100, so it's irrelevant. I
You
mean,
need
if you have
to
a salary,
compare
it's a small number.
apples to apples here.
And I think the other thing that at budget time, we generally put the numbers out there, and that is, what is our average cost per student? And that's reflected in there, and I don't think we're in the leader of the pack, I think we're in the middle of the pack on the cost per student. So that would say that so that would be the indication of our efficiency and our average salaries versus our districts.
Maybe on that comment, then I'll say, then, when we figure out our tax rate for town people, residents, we base our school budget, we base it down on the county. So there's those towns, their school budget, I'm sure what you said, that to be reflected by 4.7.
That's not what these
No,
numbers
my
mean.
question,
These
my
numbers
question
mean
is,
the
how much of
settlement
this,
percentages for the teachers.
yeah.
I don't understand what you're trying to tell me.
The town government, what's their raises to the taxpayers? Because it all adds up. It all
Mr.
stays down.
Pizarro, that's none of our concern.
Although it's not, Phil.
No, it's not
No,
any
we
of our
should be
concern.
concerned.
Because let me say, let's go a little farther. I know where you're going with this. You cannot,
You do?
in good
That's
conscience,
where I'm going, so
because you want to compare municipal, what's their raise, what's our raise,
Of course. well,
you
we say
cannot,
we-
in good conscience, and I'm not saying anything against any of the town workers at all. I'm not demeaning anything they do. I'm not lessening anything, any burden they have as employees. You cannot compare our employees to the township employees for a couple of reasons. Number one, everybody falls under the cap. Number two, every one of our staff members are certificated, have to pass a criminal background check, have at least a bachelor's degree, and most of the time more so than that, multiple degrees. That's not a requirement. So of the township, you can't compare what you pay one worker to another worker in a completely different venue. It's not fair, it's not accurate, and it's none of our business.
It's none of our business.
No, it's none of our, not this
Are we
body.
responsible to the taxpayers? Responsible to them?
Our job is to be respectful to the taxpayers in as much as we put together a budget for this Board of Education. That's what we do.
Okay, so I don't see how you don't see that it falls together. It's the same town.
We have no
When you compare
responsibility.
a town, and you want to say about numbers on raises, what they're giving to their school, I'm not against teachers' raises, one bit. It's not about the raises that I'm against. But when you want to compare a town that maybe their local government doesn't have a higher increase as we're going to occur here as a local, we should be looking at it, Phil. Don't say that we don't, it's not our consideration, and we should be able to have an open mind to realize how local
If you want to work on the contracts and the negotiations with township employees, work for the Board of Commissioners, and then you can put together your
Well,
budget.
okay,
And as long as you say that your responsibility as a state elected official on the Board of Education is to put together a responsible budget, and that's what we've done here, year in and year out.
Don't include me on a we.
You know why? You're right. I won't include you
Don't
on
include
the
me on a we. You said about being on their negotiations, I would love to have been on ours. But
Mr. Spezzano, I offered you the opportunity, you declined to be on the negotiating committee, so don't sit here, don't you dare sit here and say, I wish I was on the committee. I offered it to you, you declined.
And I'm going to now tell
No, you acknowledge that? You acknowledge that?
Okay, let me tell you.
No, you acknowledge that. No, it's my turn to ask the question. You want to sit here and ask questions, answer one of mine.
Okay, Phil.
Do you acknowledge
You
that?
talking over me, Phil?
Do you acknowledge that?
I acknowledge you. You talking over me?
Thank you.
Okay. I will say that I denied to be on it for a reason. And I guess it's time to
But
go
don't
back.
sit here and say, I wish I was on the committee when you know you were offered and you turned it down.
The reason why I turned it down so the public knows was that I was asked to sign a document that said I would not sue the union president or the teachers union. And that's the only way that I was asked to be on. And if I didn't sign it, I couldn't be on it. Do you deny that?
That's not true. That's not true. Because here's why. There's only one person sitting in this room that has the discretion to assign members to the committee. That's me.
Okay, and
You and I never had a discussion of whether or not I'm not going to sue. I asked you if you wanted to be on, and you said no.
okay, let me explain.
I didn't ask you to sign a document, did I? Did I ask you to sign a document?
Excuse me?
Did I ask you to sign a document?
No, you asked me to be on that, I had to sign it. That's what you said.
No. Did I ask you to sign?
No, I said to be on negotiations, you had to sign.
I never said that. I never said that. That's twice what I was
Mr.
saying.
President,
We have a
point of order.
conversation
Can
about
we
contract.
talk about the contract?
Well, yeah, I just want to know why I wasn't on negotiations.
It's all the way there.
Let's talk about the contract.
All right, well, we can talk about the contract, that's not a problem. I mean, I don't know if my attorney would have asked that, I did ask that question to our counsel, and I was told I did not have to sign it. And I wonder why I asked that question if I wasn't asked to sign something. Marco, can you answer whether or not I asked you that question?
Mr. President, I have a point.
Mr. Rogers, I'm talking to
Yeah.
Point of order means he has the floor. Have you gone to your new board member seminar yet, Bill? Have you gone? It's apparent you haven't. It's apparent you haven't.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers.
There are a lot of citizens here, and it's going to be a late night if we continue like this. Let's get to the business of the contract. Let's hear what has to be said in a constructive manner, and let's move on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else have any?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to commend EAN, our negotiating team, the members of the Board of Education that serve in our council, Mr. Marco. As a former educator, I know that this is a very important document that comes across every year, 2 or 3 years, depending upon the district that you serve in. This year was a tough year, we all know this, but the economics will be hit with. Many of us are looking at something that we don't really know in the next 2 years if it's going to click. We hope it does. We talked tonight about getting stimulus money. We talked tonight about getting money from the state. Every school district is banking on this. I'm a taxpayer in this town, just like everybody else that lives in Nutley in this room tonight. I looked at this hard. I got this document on September 14th. I went through it. Not only did I go through it because of the salaries, I went through it for other things. What we want our teachers to do, what the teachers have to do. And in this document, there's an important thing that each of us understand, that once we either vote yes or no this evening, we have to abide by it for 3 years. Teachers, I was at a fair this week, and a gentleman who was a lawyer in this town that I respect went up to the microphone and said, outside of a parent, the most important person in a young adult's life is his teacher. Teachers are what make this district run. Teachers are what make this town what this town is. 30 years ago, I moved here. Why did I move here? For the school system. I was looking for a home in Belleville. I was looking for a home in Bloomfield. But when I student taught in this building and other buildings in this town, I knew what we had here, and we still have it here. We have to make an investment. You have to invest. And invest will only make the product better. If we don't do things and keep the budget right and keep the teacher salary right, teachers are going to leave. You're not going to attract new teachers to this district. I've seen teachers leave districts that I was in. They didn't want to be there anymore because of complications of the salaries, of what they have to do. Speaking of what they have to do, they're not 9-to-5 workers like some people are. Computer people are working in the industry. Teachers are in this building, elementary schools, at 7 o'clock in the morning. If the custodians were there at 6, they'd be there at 6. And they stay here until 4, 5, 6 o'clock, making it ready for the next day, getting ready for their classes. They're on a stage every day. If you're in a high school, you got 6 periods. You're there every day. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. You have to produce. If you're in the elementary school, you got a class from the time those little guys and little girls come in up until the time they leave, and you have to produce. You cannot fake it. That's the key thing. We have to invest in the product that we have here. Looking at the figures, I also looked at the county rate, as Mr. Slaughter said. We're underneath that.
Saying enough. Going to Bergen County, I'll tell you what, my friends work in Bergen County. They're $4 to $5 to $6 to $10,000 more. Go to their top salary guy, and you see, they're probably $20,000 more. Bergen County is a good paying county. And the people of Bergen County, in those towns, they invest in their school system. And they get what they want. I've said this before. Nutley is an oasis. And it's only because of the educational system. Our teachers in this town are hard workers, they're dedicated, they're professionals. These are the people that we want to keep here, and this is what we have to do tonight to keep them here. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? No? Call roll.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear the question.
Oh. Any other questions?
Yes.
I just have a couple of comments I feel I need to make before I vote on this contract. You know, it's been a tough year, actually. It's been a tough 2 years economically. November of last year really brought to fruition some realities for a lot of us in business where we were forced to make tremendous cuts in personnel and logistics, which hurt. You know, we're going to be faced, I think, with conditions that may become worse in the next 2 years. I must say I am troubled by one thing, and you know, you guys have done a terrific job and spent a lot of time negotiating this. The union, I think, has brought a very good package to their body. I would like to hear a little more about what the impact for the district is going to be in year 2 and year 3. I find it incredulous that we wouldn't have any type of anticipation, any type of budget review, obviously anticipate, I guess, healthcare costs to be in the range of 16 to 18%. Yet everyone sitting at this table has been informed by state New Jersey school boards that the state healthcare package that we are no longer in is going to have increases not of 16 or 18%, but of 25% this year in the year in budget year 2009-10. So I would feel a lot more comfortable if I heard or understood a little better how we're backing into 10 and 11 and 11 and 12, because we must have anticipated something. We must have put together some type of budget for those 2 years in order to come up with this contract. I mean, there's no way you can just say we're going to do 4% on average and absorb the medical impact. So can somebody answer that? I guess it was asked maybe once or twice tonight, but I'm not clear on it, and I really like to be clear.
I can answer as far as what the increase in salaries will be. As you said, for benefits and for energy and special education, that's a number that's pretty much unknown now. But for the 09-10 year, the salary increase is going to be $998,000. In the 2010-2011 year, the increase is going to be $1,063,000. In 2011-2012, the increase is going to be $1,133,000.
Excuse me, that assumes there are retirees?
Yes.
So that's
Without any retirees, except there are
with no retirees, but that's just salaries.
reduces those numbers, that's the maximum.
So what are we anticipating healthcare growth?
The increment, we just done an increment for the 2009-2010 year. And the teacher increment is 2.37%, and the secretarial increment is 3.21%. Now that basically means, say for if a teacher is on BA step 7, then they want to go to BA step 8.
figure out, you said you had meetings with both the union healthcare people and our own healthcare professionals. What are they
You got to
anticipating?
remember that our contract is experience rated. We are our own experience, not the state experience. That's why they create that difference between 25% and this current year we have an 18% increase. Now the 18% increase includes 6% of catch-up for prior year where we had some catastrophic losses. So excluding those, we probably about a 12% increase this year. Now going forward, who knows? If our experience continues to run the way it has been historically, ignoring those two cat losses, we'd probably be in that 12-15% range for medical care. You can't predict it. You can say, okay, that's what it would be on average, but until, as the experience, we won't know probably until January, as we said earlier, what's going to happen for next year, and as the experience starts to emerge, you look at claim costs, and that's when the underwriters start looking at 6 months worth of data, and then they'll have a feel for where rates are going next year. But if the are historically, and that's why if you recall when we got out of the state plan, our rates were lower than the state plan because we historically had better experience than the state on an ongoing basis, and there was significant savings coming out of the state plan.
I understand.
So
Initially.
the only reason why it flipped was because when the state plan eliminated traditional, as I said earlier, we had a significant portion of our population in the traditional plan, and during the negotiations, I think we made it clear that the healthcare is not an issue for the current because of the current financial situation in the economy. It's an ongoing, long-term thing where we have to solve that traditional problem and move away from the traditional into the direct access. As that happens, that will further reduce our healthcare costs.
I just want to say that I'm in agreement with the president as far as wanting to reduce class size, trying to get a better education for the children in the district. And it's just discouraging seeing, benefits being pulled from our full-time subs, which we need back in, the program cuts, the club cuts. And I think that when the budget and finance committee gets together, I believe it's on the 13th, that we really have to begin to take a very strong look at where we go in the future in the next contract. And it's something we need to start talking about now. And healthcare benefits is going to be critical. I'm not as optimistic as you are, Mr. Cookton, in saying that, it's really an average of 12%, because I think since we moved out of state healthcare benefits, it's gone up. In the last 5 years, we were anticipating 8 and 10% increases, and then 12 and 14% increases, and now we're talking about 16 and 18% increases. I don't know how that number is going to get any smaller, and I understand it goes by history, and we don't really have a long history as far as being in this program, because we've only been in it for a couple of years. So it's a grave concern, and as the Commissioner says, we talk about affordability, and it's going to be something that we really have to take a very serious look at very soon. So,
Dr. Giselle, I'd like to piggyback on what Kenny was saying. Jim, I have a question. We don't have to have the same health plan for years, do we? We can change if we get a better health plan. Yeah, I think we're better too.
You can change carriers.
We can change the
You
carriers.
can change the plan itself.
Right. But equal to it all, we can, if it's lower, if another carrier is lower, we can change, correct?
Yes, we can change carriers for lower than some of these we can change carriers in that fashion.
And if the state is lower, if the state is lower, we can go back into the state, right?
With agreement for
We have to negotiate.
we did reach a sidebar agreement that we have an on-top committee, some from the union and from the board, and take a look at some of the conversations, and also to work with the pushing for the direct access for its membership. So I think many of the leaders of the union are comfortable with direct access. access, because it provides good health care coverage, but in a more economic fashion. Basically, it comes out of the provider's pocket. So we did come to some agreements in the negotiations to move forward in that in open enrollment and how to proceed to encourage the switch.
You know, what gets me too is that when you retire, you go back into the state health plan. As a retired teacher, you go right back into the state health plan.
You know, I'd like to point out to the public too, much of our financial problems, I think, arises from the state, who sends all kinds of dictates with heavy, heavy price tags. I just looked at the amount of money that's spent to send students out of district. It was $3 million out of our budget. And that is not the total of the amount of money that we have to spend because of the state. Do you have that number offhand? What percentage of our budget really is attributable to state requirements? Roughly.
I don't have that now.
Well, roughly.
I have how much our special education is. It's about 5.5% is the tuition for our district students.
Plus much else. True.
Right, plus numbers.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, but I don't think the town has those kinds of mandates from the state, do they? I don't think so. That's a serious problem for us. Now, that, of course, has nothing to do with the contract, but I think the public should realize that and understand it.
Just one other point, Board Member Cook has commented on it, and it was that the sidebar agreement, one of the sidebar agreements we reached, was to continue with committees from both teachers and from the board to continue to look at the total compensation package and the health care with a view toward making, constructive comments, even with regard to the development of the salary guide, all aimed at giving us a leg up on the next negotiation. And both sides, obviously, as everything else in the collective bargaining, both sides had to agree to that, and the association and the board team were able to reach that agreement. That would be helpful.
I want to make a comment before you put it on. Too late. Call the roll. I want to make a comment, Mr. Casal. Is there a problem with that? Mr. Cooper said something. I want to make a comment regarding the health benefits. She said that the union seemed to be interested. She thought that it was a good second, third plan.
Much of the leadership of the union are under access, and they find it a good plan, but I got to remember, the problem is that over 60% of the membership is in traditional, and that if we negotiated something to eliminate traditional in one shot, that would probably not be acceptable by the membership, and that they would not ratify.
And we have it in the contract to new retirees not to be offered traditional.
Until they reach, yes, it would be for the duration of this contract.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Casal.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Anywhere? Anyone else on this body have a question, comment?
Right.
Seeing none,
Rights count.
call the roll.
Mr. Francola.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Mastrotola.
Yes.
Mr. Riley.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. Russo.
Yes.
Mr. Sauter.
Yes.
Mr. Spazzato.
No.
Dr. Sal.
Yes. Mr. Sauter, would you move Superintendent Addendum Item number 1, please?
Yes. Teacher retirement. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the acceptance of the retirement of Mr. William Farkas, high school teacher, effective December 1, 2009. So moved.
Have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Francola.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Mastrotola.
Yes.
Mr. Riley.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. Russo.
Yes.
Mr. Sauter.
Yes.
Mr. Spazzato.
Yes.
Dr. Sal.
Yes. At this point of the meeting, I'd like to open it up to hearing the citizens on any school matter.
Terry Burke, 45 Hamilton Place, President, spokesperson of the Nutley Parent Advocacy Network. I just have something in response to Mr. Sauter's statement. I there's 3 million,
I think it's 2.7, I rounded it off.
does the state not reimburse for some of that? Maybe perhaps Mr. Davina can help us out with that. And do they not reimburse, do you not get state aid for the children that are special ed?
We do receive, special ed, let's see, $2.2 million in category of special education aid that we receive for that. That's $3 million, which is sort of referring to, that was in the kind of get.
Just the outplacement.
Couple weeks ago,
That was just outplacement to other schools, you know? Like,
Also,
there,
that would
they
include-
call one there, something or other.
Right, and those are for children that you can't accommodate here. That's what you're
Yeah, that
referring
was
to.
like $80,000 per student.
Right, right. But if we did have those types of services here, we wouldn't have those problems. Thank you.
Good evening, Victoria Flynn, 43 Sylvan Place. I have a question regarding, well, first, is the memorandum of agreement now going to be considered a public document for purposes of disclosure?
Yes.
But no one can comment on it now because it's all done. Now, I know other towns have made memorandum agreements made public before the board votes so that the public has an opportunity to provide comment, good, bad, and different. And as a lawyer myself, as you know, Mr. Tomaco, the law is not always clear. There's always two sides. That's what keeps us in business. So I understand your advice and I appreciate it. I'm glad you were consulted on this legal thorny question. But I think it would have been good policy for the board to maybe update that public maybe 5 days prior to this meeting. I don't know, it could have been in there that would have been too controversial or revealing any strategy.
For the reasons already expressed, my counsel to the board was that would be inappropriate. And I think that the board was very forthcoming in sharing in the public discussion most of the particulars. But that memorandum of agreement, now that the board has ratified, would be made available.
I have a question regarding, I saw the Nutley Sun had a posting today about the appeal to the Department of Education. I was hoping, I understand Mr. Zara was quoted as saying that we're going to appeal some type of determination that has just been made by the, I guess, the Chief of Staff for Commissioner of Education.
Yeah, what you're referring to is the Office of Fiscal Accountability, who did the examination, as you know, and one of their findings was that they directed that we refund a portion of state aid that we had received. We appealed that finding, as you know. We received on September 30th an indication that our appeal was denied at that level. It's the second level of appeal. We have a further avenue of appeal to the Commissioner of Education, and we intend to pursue that avenue of appeal.
A year ago, or almost a year ago, it was November when we first got the decision, I recall. And at that point, I questioned, why are we spending the time and money appealing that determination? If we violated the public bidding laws, we violated them, and now we're going to have to suffer the consequences. I don't know what the likelihood of success, unless it's a hardship exception we're seeking from the $326,000 fine.
Mr. Zara, respond.
Mrs. Flynn, what you're referring to was a decision made in 2000, I believe. And that decision in 2000 financially impacts us today. I think it would be irresponsible to just wave the white flag and tell them we're going to give you the money back. I'm appealing in the interest of our community and certainly our school district. That's probably it. Simply you're asking why we're
Yeah, because I want to understand the basis of our appeal. If it's a hardship, I would like to know that. A year ago, Mr. Pomaco wasn't here at that meeting when I asked that question, on the grounds that we were going to appeal, I don't think.
Mr.
Is it a hardship exception? Like we're saying, okay, fine, it was something that happened in 2000, and I understand, Mr. Zara, you don't want to have to deal with that now.
Well, I don't want to give the money back.
Yeah. But is there a hardship exception that we can rely upon? Some cases?
The strategy of appeal at the commissioner level may change slightly. We do feel that there's some misapplications of the statute by the examining team. We don't agree. We didn't agree with a lot of their conclusions and recommendations. We were led to believe that the restoration of the state aid would be a kind of an easy thing, at least from our conversations with them, with our BA and our superintendent. We're disappointed in the opinion that we received. And that examination, you talked about November, that examination was in February 2009. That was the report, the original report. And my counsel to this board is it would be silly for them not to appeal. We're talking about $321,000, and I think there's a basis for appeal, and we've got the 90-day time frame within which to do it, and we intend to do it.
And so now it's going up to the commissioner?
Commissioner of Education, correct.
And then after that, it's going to go to the active? Or
It goes from the Commissioner of Education either to the State Department of Education, the State Board, and then to the Appellate Division. Yeah, unless we prevail, of course.
In the event we don't prevail, where would that $326,000 come from?
They were kind enough to tell us they would work out a payment plan.
Okay. $100 a month?
I'm ready
Still
for
for
a
what
can,
fund? Yeah.
ready for a can shaking from the shop.
But in all seriousness, from what fund, like, would we have to anticipate taking that?
Well, the basis of our appeal was to explain, as every school district in the state of New Jersey, with the exclusion of perhaps the Apple districts, that we have serious programs that expanded, offerings for children, opportunities, requirements. All of these are wonderful things, and this community prides itself on all of those opportunities. And what we were really saying in a very, very open, common sense approach is, how can you penalize us for a decision made 9 years ago? That we have some question as to whether the statutes have changed, and statutes that came into being in 2004 regarding state construction are applicable to something that was done in 2000. Again, I don't know if we're going to prevail, but certainly we're not going to say okay.
And
Not
then,
yet.
Sir, what steps are we taking in the event this district does get hit with $326,000, bill? Are we taking any steps to recoup those monies from someone else?
Yeah, that's for council.
Because I would think we would have to file a claim, because it looks like we're going to go to the commissioner, then the board, and the active. I think we need to preserve our claim.
We are exploring all those options, and any avenue that's available to us that there is a potential to make a claim for, we intend to do that. That's my marching order.
So we have filed, for instance, it has to deal with the contract with TriTech originally we presented in 2000.
Correct.
And whoever the attorney was at that point who revised this board, that was a legal contract. Have we put them on notice that there's a potential claim?
I've had a telephone conversation, but it appears, we're not certain, and without, I don't want to get into it because of the divulge legal strategy from our standpoint, which is privileged with the board, but there's some questions, but there are, we think, some responsible people, and we will pursue anyone that we can legally pursue.
I just don't want to run out of time.
I understand. Of course, as you know, statute doesn't run until you're aware of it. We only became aware of this claim when the report came, which was February of 2009, so we're well within the statute.
The denial of the appeal actually arrived on, I believe, Thursday.
Yeah, well, knowledge is a slippery slope. It could be sometimes the board would have knowledge of what should be a proper contract and what should not. I'm sure that would be a battle as well. I'm just saying, I thought maybe we should preserve our claim. And I know I'm saying as a concerned citizen that I think these board members should be aware of all these issues that you have to be careful of to not forego a potential claim. Because I understand you don't want to cut programs, you don't want to cut clubs for something that happened 10 years ago, but if you don't make sure you take all the proper steps, you're going to be faced with that possibility. And I have other questions, Mr. Camacho, I just might be aware. I forwarded Mr. Zara with them, and I think he forwarded them to you, but I was wondering because Mr. Camacho's you're not always here at the meetings, and there's another, I know you have another lawyer who's not always here, and I know they advise you, but they don't come to the meeting, but I want to know what's the status of the tri-tech litigation, where does that stand?
I frankly can't comment on that because I'm not handling the tri-tech litigation.
What I'm planning to do at our next meeting is dedicate at least 30 minutes with our construction attorney here to answer all of your questions. Okay?
My personal question.
You seem to have the most interesting ones, but and most of them, what you're looking at, what you're suggesting, all good ideas. I mean, you're an attorney, you know they're all good ideas. We're well down that road. We've been down that road for a while. We'll have the attorney who's handling those issues come here so he knows exactly what he can answer for you and what he can't. But we have been pursuing other areas, not just this $326,000. We've been pursuing all areas where this body has been victim to spending money that it should not have spent.
And that's why I was hoping maybe, I think it should be like on your agenda every meeting, you should have a legal update for the public to tell me.
Yes, I plan, as I said, I plan to do that at the next meeting. We will probably stagger that with the academic reports. The website should be up and running this week, and we will have the ability
I have a question about the website.
Okay, can I finish?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll have the ability to post whatever updates that are available to the public on that website, which will make it a lot easier for you to get information and for us to disseminate.
That would be helpful. I'm excited about the website. However, I'm concerned again because we're going down that road of should it be big, should it not be big. I understand we're going to have a website, and I don't remember there being a procurement.
I'm sorry, you don't remember? I didn't hear you.
There's going to be a website, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Dr. Stuff, okay. I don't recall there being a procurement to secure those services for this district, for the board. I know the town does a procurement for their website. I don't know what exception we're utilizing to procure the services of the website designer.
At this point, it's at the 2 or 3 month trial period, which is basically an RFP of sorts, is costing us nothing. Okay,
But it sounds almost a little bit like collusion. You have someone who's going to do the website for you for a few months at no cost, which is fantastic. But then you're going to do a procurement. So what chance does some other website designer have in participating in that procurement if you already have someone in mind? And I think the person you have in mind is fantastic. I'm looking forward to the website. I mean, you could have done that through a proposal process, just grab a few proposals and pick one. I just am concerned as if someone else outside this district will look to see that action taken by this board, what they're going to say. Are they going to say we violated the public bidding laws again?
Well, I'm sure people are going to say whatever they want to say. We haven't violated the public bidding laws on the website. We have no intention of doing it.
Has council
In a
been-
perfect world, we may get somebody to come up in 3 months and say, wait a minute, try ours for 3 months, and then we can squeeze this into a year. Great. I'm all for that.
So council's been, has advised the board as to
Absolutely.
this website?
Absolutely.
And it's,
You know, it gets a little disheartening when every step we take,
I
people are
question-
assuming we're going to do something illegal.
I don't think you do it intentionally, and that and that's not what I'm trying to convey. All right, well,
I'll accept it back.
but your comment to me suggests I'm just saying that to you. I'm not. What I'm saying to this board is that these are thorny legal issues that require careful consideration in the environment we live in today.
Absolutely.
And
And
I get concerned. I mean, not every Board of Ed district in this state of New Jersey gets hit with an opinion like the Department of Education hit this board with last year, or this year, February. That doesn't happen. You know, where someone says the contract you entered into 2 years ago is legal.
that for the last 16 months, 14 months, every decision that this body made included 9 people and council. What happened before that, I can't speak to that.
Well, that's why I would appreciate like the legal updates so that I know that So I'm not worried that, and I can come up here and ask these questions. Maybe you've already asked these questions. I don't know that from the meetings that I'm attending.
Mr. President, can I make comment? Because you weren't at the last meeting, and we did discuss this. And I asked the same question. I was assured that anyone that was going to make a proposal with one of our fees would have the opportunity to put theirs up for 3 months, or whatever we're offering to the one. So it seems confusing, because I was confused also. I was told that they all had the opportunity to do the same presentation that we're getting now.
I don't know why we just didn't do the proposal right now. Maybe you have someone in mind. We have, all right, that's it. Where are we getting the money for this website from? Or is it not this budget?
Well, we asked that question, and you
You
answered.
did, and the proposals are being worked on as we speak. We're not waiting for it. Our BA is preparing the proposals. My advice was that we go out for RFPs on that service, and that's what we intend to do.
Okay, so we're going to go out for RFPs first before putting the website up.
No.
No.
Well, on one hand, we can keep the website we have, which is abysmal,
Yes and no.
okay? Or we could take the opportunity of someone who's offering us a free service, upgrade our website, which is one of our problems, communication, and go out to RFP. So I would choose to have someone offer the free service, get the website up the way it should be, go out to RFP, and then go through the process.
And the other thing I would ask for on the agenda is, Randy thought about the website and it's abysmal modeling, but there were the construction updates. I think last one was July 31st. There hasn't been a
Well,
construction update.
we can talk about the website and everything else, and I agree with you, it's abysmal.
No,
But moving forward, all the construction updates, current construction updates will be on the website. All the
I just want
resolution, the resolution, not just listed like the cover page, each individual written out resolution will be on the website. It just will give us the ability to get more information out and more complete in every aspect, construction,
I
academics.
think it makes the meetings look better too.
Yes, I agree.
But I just had to, it was one of, how I said maybe we could have legal update as an agenda item for every week. I don't know if there's a construction update, for every meeting. Sometimes there is, sometimes there is not. And there seems to be a lot of construction, so that would be really helpful.
As updates become available, they'll be on the website, as well as at the meeting.
Mike Russo, at Beach Street. First of all, Mr. Zara, I'd like to publicly thank you for any help or assistance that you gave in getting the crews switched from this Friday to the following Friday. My son is one of the students that will be taking the SATs for the third time this Saturday, and he was thrilled to hear that the crews was moved.
The details were as I explained to them when I received your email on Sunday. The high school principal was working on that early Monday morning, so he deserves the credit for getting that moved.
Okay.
Thank you.
As far as the teacher's contract goes, as a taxpayer with an accounting degree, I have a lot of questions, I have a lot of concerns. But as the father of 4 children who are still in the Nutley School District, I'm going to use my better judgment. I'm going to shut up, smile, and sit down. You wonder why more people don't participate. This show of strength, intimidation, if you will, that's exactly what it is.
I don't think so, Mike. I think members of this body would have voted in their conscience regardless of how many people we had pro or against the contract. That's just what I believe. I don't think it matters who's in the audience. Anyone else? Seeing no one else to close this portion of the meeting, have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.
I was gonna go up there and just yell, guys, I was not in the mood. I want to go home.